Four Wards Podcast. Hey, what's up? It's Eric Bra, voice of Draven, Jerks, and Vel'Koz. And you're listening to the Four Wards Podcast, here to help you move forward in League.
Oh.
Yeah, like, I got the live thing up. Did you fix it? Because I see Doom's face like 6 times.
That's all right. It's a good thing to look at.
There's like half of my face. There's Doom, but then there's you talking.
Hello.
The worst news is that all we could find was Adamophobia, Conswell, and Horse Doctor.
At least I made aim right, you son of a bitch. People come to the show to get away from me, and now here I am.
Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't aware it was my job until last week. Well, you know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me.
Great intro.
No, we have Adam and Jaren, so yeah.
Don't sound so goddamn excited, you sons of bitches. Can we not get can we not get people pumped up and hyped and ready to talk about League of Legends tonight? Because I feel like there's just not enough energy in this group call right now.
Okay. Woo! Woo! That's going to be fun. Yeah, so this week's trinket tip. This was the one Ezra really wanted to cover a lot, so sorry he's not here, but smart pings. So, smart pings. Press the G key. What the G key does is it will bring up a little wheel. And if you just press and click, it's going to make a little general ping, just little ping on the map, wherever your mouse was. You can also do it on the mini map itself, or you can do it on your actual screen.
Why not the control key?
I always use G.
I always use control for it because it's right there. My fingers are all right there, so I don't have to move my... I don't know. I always use pinky. Maybe I'm weird. I always use my pinky for everything.
Oh, see, I use my thumb for the G. It's just... Yeah. I don't know.
You can hold control down and move your mouse, and the little thing comes up. And then
So you hold control down or G or whichever key you want to use. And if you do up, it does a danger ping. Danger ping lets people know that, hey, you might get ganked, or hey, you need to play safe because you're probably going to die. Usually if you send someone a warning ping and they don't advise it, it's just their problem, honestly. The wheel to the left, enemy is missing. So that's a great way to let people know, hey, no one in my lane. Quick way to say, instead of having to even type, no one in lane or, whatever, it lets your team know that, hey, your mid might be rolling to gank or whatever. I'll usually ping it as a jungler anytime I just stop seeing someone even on the mini map. It just helps team out as a whole. The down ping is assist me. Me personally, as a jungler, I use it to let me know, hey, this is where I'm starting. I'm gonna need a leash here if you can help me out. Or sometimes people ping if like, hey, I'm gonna back if you can hold lane. However, so a lot of ways you can use it. Or hey, help me kill this tower or something like that. Because in solo queue, these are the main ways to use this because you don't have voice comms and it's faster than sitting there trying to type shit out. And the next is the ping wheel to the right, which is on my way. Lets them know that you're on your way for a gank, or lets them know that you're on the way for a team fight or an objective or whatever. Saying, hey, it's okay for you to engage because I'm right there. I'm coming. So they know like the path taken, everything. It shows it on the mini map. So I really like that one. But use smart pings because communication is key in this game, and any way you can communicate more effectively is just going to help your team as a whole, especially in solo queue. I'd say if you have a fives team, that's a good way of saying it. But unless you already have that pre-communicated, like an LCS team does, a lot of people aren't gonna pick up on that.
I think the only thing that I don't do the whole like certain team liquid bull crap with wards. I'll just use alt left click ping and then I'll type ward here and I'll ping it a couple times. Ping ward here.
You should just put a timer too.
And I was gonna bring that up too, but go for it.
Yeah, like don't forget the time. So Trinket's 60. At level 9 it becomes 120. A green is 180, 3 minutes, and pink is until you kill it. So just like put the ward in a timer on it.
Assuming you could, assuming you're good enough to remember 60 seconds. But yeah, that's actually really helpful when you're talking about and you really want to elevate your game to the next level with warding and using those pings. Is that knowing that if someone wards in the top is a really good example for this because you'll see people walk out of lane to ward, so you could ping and say, just ping 710, you can come gank. Don't gank. It basically says don't gank me before 710 because I'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot there was actually one little last piece of news that Doom forgot to put in the show notes here, and that is the new mistake contest is officially done. We're done with that. We got in all our entries, and we're gonna select the winner right here.
Have the RP?
Yeah, for $10 RP.
Spinning the wheel.
Spinning the wheel.
Number 25, which would be.
I'm spinning the wheel on stream right now.
Oh.
Number
Snap.
7.
Oh. Damn.
Oh, he does have a wheel.
That communication, bro.
Number 7. Let's see. Who is that? That is Colin. So, Colin, we will be emailing you with the RP code in just the next few days here once this gets released. So, be on the lookout for that. And thanks to everyone for writing in. I loved it.
Do we know what Colin's noob mistake is?
Colin's noob mistake. I don't have it written down.
Okay, I was hoping you did, so we could all giggle about his noob mistake.
It was one of those a lot of them were the same categories. I bought runes before I hit level 20. A lot of them were common ones. I took down some of the more not so common ones, like the intro you heard here tonight, and when we talked about yesterday, Shyvana ulting into the tower. And we may be making more intros like that based on those mistakes. They were a lot of fun.
I just wish you could just Fusro Da the tower like that still.
Right? That would be amazing. But anyways, we're going to move on here to our champion selection for today, which is Sivir, These guys talked me out of doing Ezreal, so
Oh, apparently, Haber, your headset mic is the one that is going through OBS right now. So you need to drop your headset mic.
Okay.
Continue.
It's nothing ever fucking works. Okay, so Sivir is our champion for this week. She is a good way to learn AD carry. She's fairly simple to use. Teaches you good mechanics between last hitting and shoving the wave. Since Sivir has a really good ability between her boomerang blade and ricochet to shove waves really fast, it's a good way to teach yourself discipline, so that you're not always shoving up the wave and putting yourself in a bad situation where you'll always be ganked. So you know how we talked about, was it 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, doing those exercises between shoving and just last hitting. Also, she has a spell shield, which is really awesome because it teaches you what's kind of important to look out for as far as CC. And this comes back to deciding what's important before the team fight starts. So if there's that one CC that you need to try to get out of, maybe it's that Malphite out, Morg binding, Blitz hook, the things that'll really just wreck your day. If you're able to really master those on Sivir, you become kind of untouchable in certain compositions. Her ult provides, great utility for the team. That's always what kind of keeps her viable or in the back. And her ricochet provides good DPS in team fights, plus it gives you the attack speed bonus once you get your ultimate. And it's also an auto attack reset, so keep that in mind. It's a good way to up your DPS. If you auto attack and immediately press ricochet after, you'll get that extra auto attack out as well. So that's all I have written down. What do you guys think about Sivir?
I like Sivir for new people learning that role because, like, at some point you need to learn to use QSS or Cleanse, and Spell Shield lets you practice that a lot every game.
It's on 20-second cooldown roughly.
And if you ever watch LCS, if you watch somebody play Twisted Fate with Cleanse, they'll QSS it so fast they won't look like they got stunned, and that's kind of what you want to be able to do is use it reactively while it's in the air so you don't get baited out of Spell Shield. And I mean, it's the same practice. QSS and Spell Shield, just you need to be quick to use them and you need to be fast to use them. So it's a lot of practice in one game.
That's probably one of the biggest things to learn as an AD carry is your reflexes need to be on point to play AD carry because you need to be able to sidestep a skilled shot, or you need to be able to walk in and out of the team fight. We talked about it in proper last week, actually sitting on the corner or the edge of a team fight, and those reflexes need to be on point because if you get hit by anything at any point, you're probably dead. For the most part, if you get caught, you're dead. So the way to learn to use Sivir is not use it preemptively. Don't pop it, then run in the team fight because people will just wait until it falls off to attack you. So to go in there, I'd actually say one of the best ways to do this is to just to start is go walking with your buddy into the jungle like a Morgana and a Sivir and learn how it works. Have them toss a binding at you and you press E and you see how it blocks it. And then you try to get faster and faster with that. And now we go into a live scenario. We go in the lane where he throws a Q at you when you're standing outside of it. And you try to block it as quickly as you can. And you immediately follow it up with an A auto attack. And you start A auto attacking walking toward the person. Now, I think if you really are looking at a way to master that, that's one way to do it. But for the most part, most of us are just going to jump in there and try to play it, try to learn it, in a live game. But there's always little tips and tricks you can do in this game to make it easier to learn a new champion.
Yeah, just buffer it. It's really good practice to have your finger hovering a skill before you need to use it, just so your hand can hit it more quickly, especially if your mechanics aren't as good. And if you're using Spell Shield and you're going to get Malphite ulted, your middle finger, whatever you're using for E, really needs to be hovering the key and ready to press it.
Yeah, and that comes back, I think, to knowing what's going to be happening in a team fight before it happens. Because unless you're top caliber players like Wild Turtle, maybe not Wild Turtle anymore.
Piglet, Wild Turtle.
Yeah, but they can use their spell shield in time if a Malphite ult flashes from a brush that they don't have vision on. You probably can't. Most of us, I don't know. I don't think anyone here can. Maybe Jaren can. So it helps when you're going into these fights to know, okay, this is what I think is going to happen. Let me have my finger hovering over that ability so it's ready to go.
Well, and the great thing about Sivir, like learning her, is that there is no bigger pain in the ass for an aggressive support or a gank heavy jungler or a roaming mid than a Sivir who knows how to use their friggin' spell shield. Because if she just blocks like like your main engage, like your main initiate, say you're a LeBlanc and you throw out that chain and you just spell shield it, and they've been sitting there maxing it, for the damage and that root and stuff, then it's suddenly you just hit them in the face with a boomerang blade and just start wailing on them, and it's like, oh crap, I'm gonna die. So, she can win trades so effectively in so many situations if she just knows how to spell shield.
Well, since we have Horse Doctor on here, I'd actually like to equate this to chess because I know he plays quite a bit of chess, and I'm hoping to make him smile by bringing this in here by thinking steps ahead. Now, since we have you on here, can we talk about that? How we can equate chess and League and thinking steps ahead and using Sivir E? Are you following my train of thought here?
Yeah. So like basically when you play AD carry in a team fight, first of all you need to hit tab before you enter a team fight on any champion. You need to be looking for items. I mean, if they have a chain vest or a Megatron, or I don't know, if you're playing LeBlanc and they have Banshees or something, you have to fight differently. So kind of look at the items. Then you need to like kind of remember who does or doesn't have flash if you're an elo or people are actually timing that. So, like, if an assassin has flash, you need to respect flash radius, and you're kind of playing differently in the outskirt of a fight there. Then, when you've kind of checked both of those things, you'll just, when am I going to need to use spell shield? Like, let's say I have a Kali diving at me. I'm not going to spell shield first to Kali R because I hit tab and I noticed the data malfight. So then you need to, like, think ahead at, like, what am I actually going to spell shield so you can be buffering your reaction for, like, that correct scenario, if that makes sense. Because you have a lot more time to react to it or think of it before the fight. Like, you have 60 seconds walking from base and getting back to lane. Where in the fight, you're relying on the fact that you can react to it in like 0.1 second, which is ridiculous. We're not robots.
That's a really good point, and I think that's like one thing a lot of people may overlook with a spell shield. It's like, because it's like, yeah, I blocked a skill, but
There's
say
7 more.
Yeah, say they have a Blitzcrank throws a hook at you and you block that Blitz hook, and it's like, all right, cool, I blocked that Blitz hook, but you don't know where their jungler is, and suddenly, oh, here he comes, and he can initiate on you because he knows you don't have spell shield, so that's why he came at you. So, I think that's a great point, making sure that you're using it for the right thing, not just because you can.
Yeah. So why don't we move on to our main topic here? I don't want to spend too much time on Sivir because who knows, maybe that'll be one of the featured champs coming up on the Champ Select podcast.
Well, spoiler alert, it's Corky next.
Corky.
Right. But I like the guest that you have for it, so it's good. But
check that out. Back to Patreon. Hey.
But let's throw out a word that is like nails on a chalkboard to, I know, Pwn, but a lot of people, especially in the network, which is viability. So what does viable mean? A lot of people sit there and say, oh, well, this champ is viable. They're a viable pick. I play them because they're viable, or this change, this patch really makes this champion viable.
Can you stop it? You're hurting me.
I think
exactly.
You're hurting me.
It really does mean, it's a good champion to play with Vi. Like, you can
trying too hard. You're trying way too hard.
I'm sorry.
All right,
like
so
you said, whatever.
I'm gonna relate this back to chess and a lot of other games. So like viability is something you can technically win with. In League, you have 5 people against 5 people, so you can really like suck a lot, and you'll occasionally win games. So it's really hard to gauge what is actually viable. I mean, I don't know. You really have to gauge optimal. Like when you learn subtraction and addition in school, you learn to line the numbers on top of each other, and you learn the most optimal way to do it. Or long division. Technically, like with base 10 math, you could do 21 plus 21. You could do 10 plus 10 plus 1 plus 10 plus 10 plus 1. It's viable. You come to the correct answer, but it's not anywhere near optimal. There's no reason to do it.
The key word here, and then I'm about to probably rant, set in my soapbox here.
Go
is
ahead,
the reason.
go ahead.
Do it.
the reason viability or the word viable isn't a good word to use in League of Legends, because if a champion wasn't viable, Riot would either rework it completely and almost instantly, or they would either rework it or remove it. Because every champion in League of Legends right now is viable. Every champion can be played in some way or the other. Every champion can be played somewhere, somehow, either solo queue or it can be played in the LCS, right? Like we've seen Poppy. People would say that Poppy isn't viable, and she was played by Unicorns 11 in their Challenger Series game. She's a viable champion. You would have to have a win to convince me that a champion is not viable to ever be played. It'd have to have a win rate of like 20%, like always for patches and patches and patches. But the Jaren hit it on the head here. It's optimal. The word is optimal use for that champion based on the items and the situations that you are given in the game. So when you hear people say viable, start correcting them to say optimal. The reason that LeBlanc is no longer optimal is because the items don't favor her as well as they favor other champions. The reason that Cinder Hulk was the go-to item is because it was the most optimal way to play the game, because it allowed you to get power spikes at faster power spikes than other champions in the game, for example. And I could get into a big whole rant about that, but we'll save that for another time. It's just the fact that viable just means can it be played and can it win? Yes. The answer is yes. For even a 45% win rate is still winning. It's not optimal, but it isn't getting beat every single game. Someone can make it work. So the big thing that I yelled at Doom for God. He kept saying viable.
I was messing with you.
Quit saying that word.
With you, yeah. Well, the thing I love, like sites like Champion GG, where they started adding more just besides the champion's win rate, and adding stats like, okay, well, if we play for this long, yeah, and if you've played for plus 50 games, plus 125 games, this is the average win rate, and it almost always goes up because people, once they learn how to use that champion better than anyone else, it becomes just as good as the optimal picks, if not better in certain cases for certain people. Because there's plenty of people that have 60% win rates on certain champions, and because they really love playing that champion, and that's higher than any average win rate for a champion.
Well, remind yourself. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So remind yourself that it's not a greater than less than. Like if you equated every champion's strength to relative score, 100 doesn't always beat 90. And like games like chess or any games with matchmaking system, a higher number means a likelihood of success. So something with 100 may beat something with a 90 55% of the time. Not 100, because 100 is greater than 90, and 100 may be greater than 90. The champion may be better in every facet, but it doesn't win 100% of the time. It doesn't work like that.
Because there's always another variable behind that 190. There's a second variable behind it, and that's the player's skill. Or the player's comfortable, how comfortable is that player with the champion? How skilled is that player with the champion? Has that player played that champion in 100 games, but you've played Master Yi in 2? You're obviously not going to be as comfortable in that champion as that player, and that player is going to know how to abuse different power spikes, and how to abuse items. They're not going to abuse Sivir's E, for example. If you could outplay people to high heavens by just understanding how to block skill shots.
And this kind of comes back to, this may be a little bit of a side note, but the whole idea of counter picks, where if someone just picks a champion because they think, against this champion they have an above average win ratio, but that's because on average those people know how to play that champion. If you just go into a game thinking that this champion is supposed to be the optimal pick, it's not gonna work out for you.
Your counter pick doesn't work once lane phase is done. If you don't know how to play the champion, you're like a fish out of water.
And even then, every matchup in lane can be, as long as you're getting experience, staying in experience range, play safe, get the farm that you can, that's where it comes down to understanding the champion. There are challenger Heimerdinger mains. There are challenger Poppy mains. There's every champ, someone mains them and someone is a god with them, and there's no champ that has less than a 40% win rate. So that means that no matter what champ it is, you can win with them. You have to get to know them. You have to know their mechanics. You have to know their matchups. But that's where we're kind of transition here into picking a main. So a lot of people will like shy away from picking like a main champ because they're like, oh well, this person isn't viable anymore or anything like that. But or this person's weak, really weak right now and stuff. But if you really know how to play a champ, you know them inside and out, you know their mechanics well, you know their play style and their matchups and stuff, doesn't mean you can't do well with them.
Hmm.
So, and we really brought up this topic. One of the main reasons I really wanted to bring up this topic was because of a really good conversation I had with Horse earlier this week. Because I tend to really overanalyze things personally, and I tend to theory craft way too much.
I can tell you
And
played RPGs.
oh yes,
Way too many RPGs, man.
way too many. And I theory craft so much that it's like, I would go, well, this and this and this and this counters this and blah, blah, blah. But he really made me realize that if you pick a champ and you're comfortable with them, you enjoy playing them consistently, and you know their mechanics, you know how they deal with certain matchups, you can do well with them. You can take any champ and
You
you
went
can
all
take it to
Dr. Phil
diamond.
on us right here with like the smooth voice, and like he got all quiet. It's like you can just do well with him. It's okay.
Just do well. You can do it. So I mean, overall, do you guys think that there's any champ that's unplayable?
There are builds. There like AP Vayne is borderline unplayable, but there's a
Yeah.
playable build for every
AP
champion.
Renekton.
Precisely, which kind of brings us into like um not only playing what you like and what you're comfortable with, but knowing how to play the champ that you like and you're comfortable with. So say you're climbing with a certain champ, you pick a champ. Uh, what's some of the main things that you guys would recommend um in making sure that you're successful in your climb with them?
This is the biggest thing. And when I do lessons, oftentimes one of the first things people ask me about is champion pool. And you have to get, if you look at champion.gg, for every champion, the more you play them, the better you get. If you hate playing the champion, you won't get to that 150 games point on OPGG. So don't pick your one-trick pony main as something that's just strong right now. Because if you don't enjoy the champion, you won't stick with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well,
Go ahead.
there's no magical elo boosting pill. Okay, there's no penis pill for elo right now. Like they said, you have to enjoy playing whatever you pick. And if that's Scion and you decide that you love that champion and you decide that you can play it in jungle, top, and mid, and support, whatever it can be, and you make it work, more power to you. But the big thing is you have to understand how that champion, that you have to understand every quirk of that champion and understand what makes that champion powerful. Now, that's really what the Champions Like podcast or the tips you guys do every week or the proper does and whatever. We tell you how to play those specific champions and play what you can do with them. But for example, there's a guy in the community named Beaver. He plays Poppy. Poppy's been banned for every single 5v5 game and every battle arena he joins in because that guy goes in the top lane and he takes a champion that has been deemed weak early. He gets poked out of lane, and he runs you into a wall and he pushes you down and kills you because he punishes you for having poor positioning. He understands where he needs to be able to push you and abuse those power spikes. And that's all what it comes down to is champion. How comfortable are you with the champion? I play Rumble, for example. He's like one of my favorite champions. I love it when people try to dive me as soon as I hit 6 because my equalizer does the exact name. Like and no one respects the fact that I'm overheated and I have equalizer down and I'm pounding your face in and I win because I have all this down. Because they don't think about what the enemy champion is doing. But I'm so comfortable that I can let that champion dive me. Because I played so many matchups into Renekton, I played so many matchups into Aurelia. Examples. There's just there are pieces to those matchups, or pieces to having that champion, but there's pieces to mastering the champion, and it all starts with understanding what that champion can get away with into the common matches that you are going to play in the lane that you pick to play it in.
Yeah, and I want to take this back to an episode we did 2 weeks ago with Oni Noken, where we talked about explicit learning in League, and it really comes down to if you want to learn a main, you really have to sit down and figure out, okay, in this certain matchup, what am I doing that makes this work? what do I need to do to make this work better for me in my favor of my champion. It's really understanding the in and outs of not only your champion but how they work against that matchup that you're going in. That's why it takes, I don't know, how many games would you say it takes like to have like a main.
Depends on the champ.
15, 20, 25 probably.
Like if it's Draven or Twisted Fate, it's like 200. But
sure.
Yeah. But like, I don't know, like the 5th level mastery, that'd be a good would that be a good way to measure it?
That's a decent way to start measuring it.
Better than nothing.
Yeah. It's a good way to start measuring it because you're going to lose. You're more than likely going to lose up to getting up to that point of the 5th mastery rank. My first master champion was Graves, which is obviously he's an AD carry, but it helped me learn. It helped me learn the AD carry role inside and out because I was forced to play at least 15 games in the AD carry role as Graves against multiple matchups. So now I understand how AD carries play in team fights, and I understand AD carries a little more than I previously did because I forced myself to master something that was outside of my normal role.
One thing I'll say is, like, this is one thing I do when I do my own replays, and it's more and more important the lower elo you get, is when you analyze, like, how a matchup worked, like we were talking about the Oniken, your opponents will misplay a lot, and you need to decide what the right play was after a play, and then you need to like rethink the play, assume your opponent plays correctly. You'll learn about your opponent's champion because you'll have to think about what your opponent should have done, and then see like if your play was actually as correct as you thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of little steps in this game, and but it's hard. The reason I waver a lot when we give a lot of this advice because I don't know what level of player you are, the listener out there, because you could be level 12 and you don't know who Irelia is. You think Irelia is Misfortune. That's a new mistake I've heard, Yeah. So also taking into account where am I at in this game and what is my next step to learning. And from a lot of you, it's that I've started to master Jax, and now I need to learn every matchup that I'm playing as Jax into that character. So now, do I need to go and play as Aurelia? Do I need to go as plays oriented? Find out what works best for you as a player to learn the champions that you're playing into. Yeah. I'm going to bring this back to like Street Fighter and fighting games. Jin, whatever. He was the Evo 2013 or 14 champion. He has gone on record to saying the way he became champion of Evo was because he went and learned every other single champion that played Street Fighter at that time in that version he played. He played every single one of those and learned every matchup that he could go into. Because when he had an understanding of that champion, he had an understanding of his character better, or he had a better understanding of his character.
Yeah, kind of like a know thy enemy sort of.
This is a disclaimer I want to put in here. So I play with a lot of people who are quote unquote experts at their champion and whatever elo they may be at. And myself, when I was a new player, I had like 100 games on Tarek. I recently used the old replay system I've had when I was in Season 2 and looked back at a lot of those games. I sucked at Tarek after 100 games, man. I was really bad at Tarek. So just because you have a ton of games on a champion, recognize the fact that you can go on autopilot and you may not necessarily be as much of an expert as you are. So just continue trying to learn. You're probably good after 50 games, but you can always get better.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that comes through. It's not just playing the champ lot. So like champion mastery, you basically automatically get that just from playing a certain champion a lot. But if you just because you play a champion a lot doesn't mean that you're getting any better on them. Or say you play ranked a lot, it doesn't mean that you're getting any better necessarily. If you're not constantly looking at yourself and looking at your play and dissecting it and saying, all right, what did I do wrong there? What could I have done better? And learning from your losses, learning from your mistakes, learning from everything. Then
you need to learn from your wins too.
Yeah, you're not gonna get better.
That's one of the biggest things people say. They just like break down every time they die or every time they lose. I mean, that's half of your games. You're wasting half of your time if you're not trying to break down what you did wrong in your wins too. It's really important.
Seriously, Horse. Shoe on head. Come on, let's go.
Shoe on head. I don't know what that means. Oh,
that means put a shoe on your head, or it's been pre-recorded. Like, take your shoe off and put it on your head. That way we know that, yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
What was I saying? I was saying something really important, the most important thing I've ever said, and now I forgot.
Because
No,
shoe
you
on head is more
Shoe
important.
on
than what you were
head.
saying.
Shoe on head, more
Name of this episode is now Shoe on Head.
probably.
Like, who wears shoes inside? Because I am definitely barefoot right now. Like,
Yeah, me too.
But dude, I came in here as soon as I got home.
Fair enough. Get that down. This is why people need to watch on the live stream.
If you have a foot fetish and wait, no,
Jesus.
Wow, dude.
no, that might not be.
That's during
That might
happy
not.
hour.
Yes, happy hour.
Oh.
All right. So, I mean, overall, as for the viability, let's
Fuck
replace
off.
that. Exactly. Let's replace that term with optimal.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that you guys think we need to really cover on that?
Well, I mean-
That
go ahead.
remember that optimal for you is not optimal for everybody, and
Yeah.
the most optimal picks in LCS are not the most optimal pick for, like, I don't know. Let's say Adam is playing Maokai and Rumble. He's 100 games in Maokai and Rumble, and Maokai and Rumble suddenly become B tier champions, and Renekton's A tier. He has 0 games in Renekton. Optimal for him is still Maokai and Rumble. So if your friends don't play meta picks, don't like pressure them into playing them. Let them play what's optimal for them, because it's different for every person.
And also, just because, say, Bjergsen is a god on Runeglaive Ezreal, it really doesn't mean you are. You're not. You're not.
Shut the hell up, horse.
You don't play that much. You don't
Check my
play as
match
much as.
history.
Check
Yeah.
your match.
I'm
Well,
going to
okay.
right now. Where you at?
All right.
Hey,
So your
speaking
horse
about-
doctor and your friggin' diamond, okay, but you're not diamond. GTFO, you're not god.
Oh,
on
you
Runeglaive.
I've
had
been
to
playing AP Ezreal for 2 seasons too. so.
Exactly.
It's yeah. Speaking of items, though, I want to bridge this over to talk not only about champion viability, optimize, but also about items. Because that comes in a lot too, like, oh, this is the optimal build for this champion. I saw a website where it says, type in the team composition and we'll give you your optimal build, which is complete bullshit. It is absolute bullshit.
Mobafire.com.
Fucking mobile fire!
No, I mean, it really comes down to, itemization. Always itemize for the game you're in. Yeah, you can have an idea of, yeah, these are my core items, my ones that I really want to get. But at the same time, if you're just going off a script with your items, you're gonna screw yourself in one way or another.
Yeah, well, like an example for 80 carries, like, yeah, most of your builds are going to be, you get Eye Edge first, but that doesn't mean that the first item that you go back has to be that pickaxe. It has to be that BF sword. I've had games where I just buy 2 pickaxes in a row just because that's what works. Or there'll be games where you're against Varus and Annie, and you need that extra sustain, so you pick up a Vamp Scepter early. There's all these different conditions that come into play, and you need to be aware of that, because in that game, maybe your most optimal thing to do is to get that Vamp Scepter early. This is really important top lane too, with like resistances, since it's obviously a lot of tanks up there.
Remember that you need to have like a win condition too. I don't know how much this bridges past forwards, but I don't know. Let's say you're playing Vigar mid and you're playing Zed and you go 0-1 in lane. You probably still may not want to rush Hourglass sometimes, because you need to do damage in the mid game and you actually need to be effective. Same with top lane. Like if you're playing Maokai into Darius, rushing, I don't know, an armor item might seem really attractive, but you might just want to get Glacial Shroud and then build Righteous Glory, because you recognize that your team needs a lot of engage in the mid game, and Shroud's enough armor to get you there, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so much
Shroud on the
go ahead.
CDR is enough to be able to push the lane back. It's enough armor to keep you alive. But you're also playing around. If you're playing into Darius, for example, you're also playing around Darius's power spikes, which is shit. 1, 3, 6, and
1, 3,
11.
6, 11.
I wouldn't even call 11 really big power spike, but 6 is like his biggest power spike he ever
When your
gets. so-
jungler's not there.
Yeah,
All the time
when
for
your
stars,
jungler is not
he
there.
gonna fuck you, man.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, so much of the game extends past laning phase that if you're just if you're just building for that as well, you're gonna fuck up. So you do need to think ahead of that as well.
Well,
I
like
think
as a
Brown Power in Battle Arena, sorry to interrupt, he built Quicksilver Sash first on Galeo into Malzahar. Really cute because he can interrupt Malzahar with Galeo and he's getting ability power from the magic resistant QSS. Mid game came and he didn't do any damage and his team just lost. It's like, all right, like I understand you're building to counter your lane, but you completely removed any win condition from your champion, and he shouldn't be ulting you anyway. So,
Well, I think a lot of this has to, a lot of this applies to the jungle too, especially to certain junglers, because right now you have like your two most often built jungle items right now in the jungle that is, are Cinder Hulk and Warrior, and you have a lot of champs that are pretty viable going either way. Sorry for using the word viable, optimal going either way, and you have to know when is it good to build Warrior, when is it good to build Cinder Hulk. Like say I like to play J4 a lot, so your J4 you can effectively build Cinder Hulk or Warrior on him. They both work pretty well on him, but you have to realize that those give you kind of different build paths and different power spikes, different strengths, different things that are gonna that make you more optimal for certain situations.
All we're saying is that MOBA Fire is bad. Don't fucking follow MOBA
Don't
Fire.
you
What the fuck
ever-
happened to MOBA Fire?
all right, so Jarvan's actually a pretty good example of this for Warrior and Cinderhulk. So, like, if you go 2-0 on Jarvan, most people are, I'm fed, I'm going to build damage. Sometimes that is correct. What you really need to look at is your team comp. If you go 2-0 and you rush Warrior with Akali and Zed, that's not good. I mean, I understand that you're 2-0, but it's still, you need to be tanky. So sometimes you don't look at your score as much. And if you're 0-1 as, I don't know, a champion in the top lane like Riven, you still want to build damage because you need to build. I'm trying to think of a champion that could build both effectively. I don't know. But building for your comp is more important than building for how well you're doing, unless you're like 0-3 or something. Because your comp still needs to have a win condition. And if you're all squishy, it's not good, even if you're fed.
Looking at that win condition and also looking at what your champion can do, J4 is actually probably one of the best examples out of the jungle for this, because he isn't innately tanky, but he either does a ton of damage or he soaks a ton of damage when he builds defense. So winning the war of attrition with the damage that you're soaking and the fact that your passive comes off a cooldown after 6 seconds, if that fight's going over that amount of time, you're not doing as much damage, but you're doing as much damage as you need to do while forcing the enemy team to deal with you, which allows your damage dealers, who are supposed to be building damage, to do what they are built to do. Rather than go in there and try to blow one person up and then dying, and now it's a 4v4, you eventually turn the fight into a 4v3. So, soak damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think TLDR, like, build for what your team needs, not for how well you're doing.
Yeah, and a lot of that too, once again, coming back to understanding your champion, say you're ahead in lane and you're doing really good in lane, but your champ falls off really hard late game, and the rest of your lanes aren't doing well.
That sounds like a good. Sorry, that sounds like a good conversation for you guys to have eventually. Is what does fall off mean? What point do you fall off? How does that work around win conditions and whatnot?
For another episode, God, if I had a nickel for how many times we've said that.
Yes, but I mean, like it's what Jaren. One of the things I love that he always preaches is win conditions, though. Like the win conditions of, say, a Pantheon. Pantheon has a very strong level 3, has a very strong level 6. He tends to do pretty insane damage in early to mid game, and then he just kind of, because he doesn't scale very well with certain things, or like AD, or if he does scale well, he does do kind of well with AD, but at the same time, like, he needs to kind of be in there, so he's not going to hold up very well if he's building pure AD, but he doesn't get stupid tanky. So that's kind of why he tends to like fall off late game. Just a a quick way of saying it with him. But
I think your big walk around here is that he has such high base damage that he's rushing a lot of armor penetration to do true damage rolling into that mid game after level 6, because that's why he's rushing Brutalizer, Last Whisper, and then he's clearing waves quickly with the Hydra, but also using the Hydra to proc his passive more quickly. And during the time of the game that they can't do as much damage to you is when his win condition is, because as soon as you hit late game and they have started building armor, your base damage isn't high enough, even though you have a ton of armor pen, to be able to do the damage.
yes.
So you want to kind of summarize here, and we'll move into a listener question.
Win conditions. I think that's the whole.
Remember that win conditions are relative too. Like I'll use Pantheon as an example again. If you're playing Pantheon into Lux, you may want to build more damage early, for example, because you want to close out the game before Lux comes online at like 3 or 4 items. But if you're playing, I don't know, a champion that falls off as well, you are a little more malleable with your build because you can surf to engage or do other things. So like it's not just what you need to do to win the game, it's what they need to do to win the game too, and like I don't know, attacking them where they're weak, I guess. So if you're a scaling champion, you want to like hold out. You're attacking them when they're weak, you're not giving them a mid game. If you're an early game champion, you're attacking them when they're weak early game.
Okay. So we have a question here. Sorry to the listener that wrote this in. It got put in our spam box. I don't know. It's like every 50 emails we get one in the spam box for some reason. But anyways, he says, "Hey, T-Force crew, I think my question would be better suited to the Forwards podcast, but I am having trouble getting. Sorry. Okay, let me just move on. This is Doug from Korea again. I would like to get some jungling advice. I recently finished my ranked placements, and I was pretty happy with the Silver 4 placement.
Good job.
This is my first season playing. When playing, I try playing Sejuani because I feel most comfortable with a tank jungler. I try not to force ganks and wait for the enemy laners to push in on our turrets. My question is, what are some things I could be doing if my team is pushing all the lanes? I've been nervous to counter jungle because I often play against fighter junglers, such as Lee Sin or Master Yi, and I don't want to die in their jungle. What I have been doing is clear one side of the jungle, take crab, ward the river, and then sort of run between lanes like a dumbass, hoping an opportunity will present itself."
I can probably help with this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Go.
All right. So, as a jungler, a lot of times, I guess if your lanes are pushed, you're looking at invading or fighting a 2v2 or warding. Sejuani has a lot of bad 2v2s and her invades aren't that good, so warding can be useful if your lanes are pushed. You should be buying 1 or 2 greens on second or third recalls anyway. You can look at some 2v2s. If you think your lane is pushed and you're going to gank it, just start farming the adjacent camp. It'll put you in closer to a correct position because you also want to farm in Sejuani. Knowing where the other jungler is kind of the biggest thing on a champion when your lanes are pushed because you want to be able to react to the other jungler. One of the things I give newer players to work on this is time every buff on the map. Don't use the map timers because you'll go into autopilot and you won't think about it. So like as soon as they kill blue, type into chat TB 710 or 715, and they kill red if you know, type in TR, they're red, 910. This makes you think about when the buff is up again, so you know what area in the map they're probably going to be on, what area in the map they're probably going to be on. You can place wards before they get there, react to them after they get there, but you consciously want to be thinking about where your opponent is if your lanes are pushed, because you're probably going to be looking to 2v2 or ward them out. Like those are the 2 biggest ways to counterplay it.
I think one thing that does get overlooked, and because, like, I think high-level players that are giving the advice just assume this is already happening, but learning how to do a lane gank is really important. Use the fact that they are pushed up to your advantage to set up for a gank. Just because you're coming from the jungle doesn't mean you have to go through the river. If you know that the river is warded, I mean that's a gank path that you can't get through anyways. And especially like in low silver, people won't be warding their own brushes to look for a lane gank anyways. So if you can get in undetected into the lane, this is for top and bottom. Especially on a champion like Sejuani where you have a gap closer and a ranged CC ultimate, where you can instantly lock up someone. Lane ganks can be really deadly as well.
Yeah,
I don't know how much this happens in your guys' games, but be thinking about your 2v2 in a lane gank because a lot of times you'll be sitting on a ward and you won't be able to sweep it, and their bot lane will bait you into it, or the other jungler will just happen to be there. And let's say you lane gank as Sejuani at level 4, and you're playing purple side and you don't have a ward on Tribush. It's pretty unsafe, and you really want to be thinking about the timers that I talked about earlier and where
Yeah.
they are on their route. So, like, if you go for that gank at 350 and you're there for whatever reason and there's not ward on try, that's not a gank you want to take on Sejuani. It's really, really unsafe, and you're probably going to lose a 2v2. So, even when you do lane gank, if you're weaker in the 2v2, you need to be thinking about where they are on the map and if you're getting baited into it.
Yep. I don't mean to say like that. That's the best thing to do, but it's an alternative that I think people don't give enough credit. When like they're just learning jungle or just picking up the game.
I just think it's a caveat because a lane gank is the easiest gank to get baited on because you're sitting there for a while.
Yeah.
And they have more time to set up a trap, I guess.
True.
Well, and kind of looking at your question, Doug, and bringing it back to the point that we talked about earlier with optimal use of the champion and stuff like that, is that you're comfortable with Sejuani, keep playing her, because if you're already comfortable with her, there, even if even with her being nerfed, it doesn't necessarily mean stop. If you're with her, keep going with her. She's still an effective jungler. And as for, you were saying that what I've been doing is clear one side of the jungle, take the crab ward the river, and then sort of run between lanes like a dumbass. Well, if that's not working, stop doing it. And two is that you have to, once again, look at the game that you're in. What is your win condition? What's the best thing that you can do right now? Because Sejuani gets stupid tanky. So look at your win condition. Is it going to benefit you more to, kind of tell your lanes, play safe as you can. Let's group up and you try to stretch out the game and get tankier and get to the point where you get those good team fights, get that good team fight alt and, call it. Or, is it going to be best for you to, go balls to the wall and try to get one of your lanes ahead? Is there a lane of yours that's being bullied that you find that way that you can take it? Or are you finding that their jungler's ganking a lot, and are you missing opportunities to take their farm? Because
that's the other thing. Going back to what we said before about knowing where the jungler is really important. Even just guessing based on clear speed, jungle timers, knowing when, like, the general time when big buffs will be taken is really important. So knowing what side junglers are going to be starting on is really important to get that first buff time. So the next buff comes up at roughly 7 minutes. So you can say, okay, they're probably on that side, so I'm safe going to the other side to take a camp.
Something that I do in jungle lessons that you can do at home if you want to work on this is use a spectator system, like, I don't know, Skin Spotlight or something. Don't use MP4 because you're going to need to use the spectator tools to do this. Using the F keys, F1, F2, F3, you can do all vision, your team's vision, the other team's vision. Go through the game with your vision, the vision that you would have playing the game, but as a spectator, and try and guess where the other jungler is.
Oh, that's cool.
And then use the tool and check if you're right. And then hide it for a bit. Say he took these camps. I know he should have been here. These camps are up. And then try and guess where he is in like 2 minutes. And like when you're going through your replay as a jungler, this is really effective because you're trying to follow a trail of breadcrumbs. And you should say, oh, he was here. Don't just say, oh, I should have known that. Say, how should I have known that? And then go through like what happened previously. Is, oh, his lane pulled here. I know that he started here. This is a common route, so he should be here. So on and so forth. But like the spectator tool is really good for that because you're playing flashcards with yourself.
Another good thing to do when going through those is asking how as a jungler is good, but also asking why did the enemy jungler go that route? What was going on at that game? Why did the jungler decide why did the jungler do double buff and gank top? what was his reasoning behind that. Ask why and try to answer it yourself, because that'll actually allow you to have a better understanding for yourself. Okay, so he went double buff, went top and got a kill because reasons, and those reasons are it was easier. Probably the reason was it was easy for him to get a gank because of there was a stun or something that helped him. Same thing it'll go with you, jungle. Now you know that you could probably do that same thing on that champion if that option presented yourself. So asking why and then answering why is also another good way on top of that to become a better jungler.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one of the things I love about being a jungler right now is because of the different options and smites, you have so many options in changing your build path and finding ways that you can be more effective. Say you're finding in the early game that you're just really not able to get good ganks. Great, go get Ranger's Trailblazer and just farm it up, because it's going to allow you to farm healthier, farm safer, and farm faster. And sometimes the best thing you can do is farm. So just farm. Other times you're going to find that ganking is going to be the best thing, but maybe you just need that little extra bit to close that little bit of gap, so you can get that little extra auto attack or something like that, chilling smite. Or say there's just someone who's just wailing on you when you go into gank, and you go into a gank and, oh crap, you just turned on me and started wailing on me. Go with that challenging smite. There's just so many, and just never go poacher smite. I'm sorry.
I was actually thinking about his route, and there's one other point I wanted to bring up. That kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the spectator and guessing where your opponent is. If you're running back and forth to lane, after you take scuttle on one side, as soon as you show in the lane, you can get 3-buffed. I do this to people a lot in ranked right now because the one side clear is pretty popular and it's easy to 3-buff on Italy. Remember, anytime you show in a lane, you're giving them information. And it's important to give the opponent as little information as you can. So if you're running back and forth, like from lane to lane, try and make sure you're not on wards. Try and not show in a lane if you're not going to get a gank there. Just don't give your opponent tools to guess where you are. I think that's the point.
Yeah. So it sounds like there's quite a few things you can be working on here. I know you put another part in this question. I want to save it for our jungler episode because I know that's going to be covered in quite good detail.
God,
when that
I
comes
can't
up
wait.
Here. It's gonna Doom's already just ready to go here. But I think that'll do it for us here on this sort of 4 wards podcast. 2 wards and a couple trinkets.
All right, that's fine. I'm the upgraded trinket, so we're good to go.
Yeah, I love the upgraded trinkets.
You're disabled.
You're disabled.
I'm disabled for 9 levels.
We need Olaf on this podcast.
I was disabled for 19 episodes, which is close enough to 9 levels. So.
Yeah.
There we go.
Guys, this has been the 4 Awards Podcast. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Goodbye.
Have a good one.